Friends, we are back with today's topics. Today's topics include need for joint culture in armed forces, why there is such need, and what the joint culture in armed forces can achieve. Second topic is about mini Goldilocks moments in our economy. What is the Goldilocks moment, how it is beneficial, and what does it indicate to the investors? We will talk about it in next few minutes. Third one, 2036 Olympic bid by India. Is it too ambitious or a projection of India's own image to the outside world? We will also understand about it. Number fourth, high glycemic index and the reasons behind diabetes. You must understand that India is emerging as a capital of the diabetes. Diabetes, which is of the two types, and what are the reasons behind it. We will understand what kind of measures can be taken to curb also. We will get to know in this particular topic. We are making these list of topic. Why? Because number one, whatever we are telling you, you can enrich number one your content that whatever you have. Number two, whatever the current affairs that is coming in the newspapers, we try it to relate it to the GS answers. So whatever the current affairs that is appearing, if it is directly asked, you can definitely attend that particular question. But if it is indirectly asked or in some essay, you can utilize these kind of things always to build your content or diversify whatever the knowledge that you have. So the first one, need to develop joint culture in armed forces, says Chief of Defense Staff at Tri-Service Conference. What does he say? He says that joint culture is the need of the hour because number one, Army, Navy, and Indian Air Force, whatever the good that they do, that good should become a case study, and we should understand that each and everything, whatever the right thing that has been done by three forces, can then become a kind of itinerary or a kind of rule book for others also to follow. That's why, to distill the best of each service while respecting the uniqueness of each service, we should make sure that the joint culture among armies or armed forces can be developed. Best of each service is needed to give an approach to the traditional concept while highlighting the need to integrate the capabilities of the services. You must know, as the technology in the warfare or technology otherwise have been leapfrogging, the countries which are taking the advantage of these technologies and modernizing their armed forces are the one which are having a definite advantage in the warfare capabilities. Countries armed forces, that is why, have to be equipped with not only the modern equipments but also have to be trained in the manner that is possible with the today's circumstances. So joint culture is necessary to develop that particular confidence and training also. Number two, as of now, our military expenditures are somewhere in the respectable territory, and the amount of capital expenditure that we do in the for the armed forces is definitely not one among the higher. Lot of actually that contribution goes to the non-capital side. So whatever the capital expenditure amounts, those are left in the budgetary allocations to the defense ministry or to the armed forces. The significant part should happen or should be spent on the capital items. So to increase the efficiency of the resources, plus to decrease actually all those inefficiencies or resources which are wasted because of the diversification, we should make sure that the joint culture also can be developed so the resources wastage can be reduced and more efficiency can be brought into. One of the key mandate of the Chief of Defense Staff is to work towards the creation of the theater commands as part of the greater transformation. Theater commands also talks about resource utilization in a better manner, instilling the confidence of joint communication and joint culture development, so that these are also in the pipeline. So the question also can be asked that the changing times, require India's armed forces also to change? So whenever we are talking about these kind of angles of the questions, then we can always make sure that we are writing about not only technology, but about the administrative reforms those are happening in the armed forces. The budgetary allocation that is given to the armed forces, that can also be made part of our answers. The conference, this particular tri-service conference, was attended by the heads of Andaman and Nicobar Command and Strategic Forces Command, commandants of National Defense Academy, Defense Services, Management of College and Defense Management, among others. What is the ultimate goal? Ultimate goal is to not only modernize our armed forces, but to make them warship ready also, warfare ready as well. Another question or another point that army chief actually talked about was about being prepared to the black swan event. So first of all, you should know what is a black swan event. A black swan event is basically a rare and a very, very unpredictable event that happens very rarely. Because of its unpredictability and rareness, the ability of the institutions to deal with these kind of events is very, very minimal. Example being Corona, example being 2001 crisis of where the terrorist attack actually happened on the US, even the 2008 financial crisis, in 1998 the dot-com bubble, are all regarded as a black swan event. So in a black swan event, the destruction or the effect of black swan event is on such a large scale. So number one, the effect of the black swan event is on a larger scale. Societies on a larger scale are affected by it. Countries on a larger scale are affected by it. The economic destruction also is so huge, because economic opportunities that the the black swan event, or the economic destruction that is done by the black swan event, is also at such a huge proportion. We must have seen that in the times of corona, how big actually the effect on the GDP of the countries was. Even countries populations net security or no net social security levels were at least at a very, very lower scale. Many people lost their jobs. Even the institutions and the regulators were not aware what to do, because there wasn't any rule book to follow. There wasn't any corona earlier. So because there wasn't any corona, we never knew how to deal with it. So the capacity to deal with black swan event is also very limited and challenging. So that is also the third thing. So whenever you are asked about the black swan event, or in essay you are asked about the black swan event, you can always utilize these kind of words, terminologies, gains of anything, or challenges about anything. So Army Chief General Manoj Pandey has also called upon the army to be prepared for the black swan event and expect the unexpected, as he identified technology as the new era for strategic competition among countries. So what black swan event that the army chief is talking about? As you know, as of now, India is actually among the two enemy countries on the northwestern front and on the northeastern front. Whatever the enemy in form of China and Pakistan is there, and both are nuclear powered countries. So the threat from these is absolutely large enough. Both these countries have an all-weather partnership among themselves. Both these countries are actually making infrastructure in our contested area, or in our area that is nearby Karakoram. Both these countries are having the unsettled border with our country. So any kind of black swan event where suppose say these two countries fight war with India, and India has to fight war actually on two fronts, these kind of things. Another black swan event can be when suppose say there is any health emergency that is arising. So the role during the health emergency of the army is of a gigantic size. So he says that army should be prepared, or armed forces should be prepared to deal with the black swan event. Black swan event also can be in the form of, suppose that tomorrow the technology changes by huge margin, where the capabilities of the army or the weapons of the army actually more goes more high tech. In case they become more high tech, then there will be a limited capacity of the armed forces to adapt to that particular scenario. That's why black swan event preparation has to be always there. And what kind of challenges can be there in the armed forces? A joint culture also should be developed, so the best case practices can be then ingrained into the people's mind and made part of their daily culture. But with it also, because armed forces are having their own unique characteristics, so that unique characteristics also need to be saved. Now come to the second topic, and that is mini Goldilocks moment. First of all, we will understand what is a Goldilocks moment. So Goldilocks moment, whenever we are talking about, it's a kind of ideal situation for a particular economy where there is a full employment, plus the GDP growth rates are higher, plus the macroeconomic fundamentals of an economy are so strong, and the inflation etc is under control. So Goldilocks moment for a particular economy does represent where the growth rate of economy is not that high or not that low that it cannot become at a sustainable and stable level. So when the country's economy is at a sustainable and a stable level backed by strong macroeconomic fundamentals. What are the macroeconomic fundamentals? A better currency rate, a stable currency rate, a growing GDP, a limited inflation, limited fiscal and revenue deficit, higher capital expenditure as compared to the revenue expenditure, the control of the general commodity of the goods that people use. These are the macroeconomic fundamentals. On the basis of that, the economists always talk about making it as a Goldilocks moment. For India also, it is being said that India is also going towards a mini Goldilocks moment zone. Mini means although we have not reached to the ideal state of Goldilocks, but yes, we are reaching to the smallest or small part of it. So how and why? Because India is currently experiencing moments due to solid macroeconomic conditions. I told you solid macroeconomic conditions where the inflation of our country is properly managed by RBI and at a range bound of like 4 to 6%. Second, the currency levels. Currency levels are also stable, and India's currency being one of the major currency, which is, I mean, trading at a particular levels, which are not disadvantageous as compared to the other international currencies. Third thing is India's forex reserves. India's forex reserves are at a particular level where the import cover is somewhere around 3 months. So in these particular times, the economy can always take the pains of any kind of foreign outgo or capital inflow of the money. India's other things are also that the GDP is also at a very, very healthy level, close to 8% GDP growth rate have been achieved. So these are all the moments which are, or these are all the factors which are making India as one of the mini Goldilocks moment. Another reason for a Goldilocks moment is peaking of the interest rates, moderating inflation prints, and healthy corporate earnings. Whenever we talk about healthy corporate earnings, the major factor is that whenever corporates actually earn a healthy amount, why they are able to earn? Because number one, the demand for their product in an economy is higher. When the demand for a particular product is higher, it is backed by the income levels or the employment level of the people. The capital expenditure that the government does to create employment, to create infrastructure is also enormous. Because when you create infrastructure, you try to reduce the logistic costs. What is a logistic cost? Logistic cost is when a particular product is prepared or originated from a particular place and it reaches to the destination, till the time how it was managed, how it was transported, how much time it took to actually, get it to the consumption baskets, all is defined by the logistic cost. Logistic cost of our economy is close to 13 to 14% of our GDP. For the Western countries, it is at the comfortable level of 8 to 9%. So to make actually country's economic system more competitive, we have to take care of it as well. So the corporate earning are also increasing because of the greater demand for their goods, plus the consumption level in our economy being at a healthy level. You must also understand that in our economy, there has been a continuous rise in the retail participation for stock markets. Stock markets are also at a very, very higher level. Why? Because, and they are also getting sustainable. Why? Because India, along with the increasing SIP contributions and addition of the new demat accounts, demat account close to 3.6 million accounts per month during October 2013 23 to March 2024, amid the ongoing trend of financialization of savings. We will understand what is the financialization of savings. So whenever you have savings, you give it to or buy a particular piece of land. Either you invest that particular amount of money in children's education, or in buying some insurance, or in buying the stocks also. So whenever you, invest whatever the savings that you have more in the movable properties rather than in the immovable properties like land, that time actually the financialization of saving happens. In India, financialization of saving is increasing because number one, the digital penetration of the financial product is also increasing. Number two, the affection towards the asset prices, asset means physical asset, has been decreasing, be it gold, be it land, or whatever. Number three, the amount of return that is given by the stock market or the SIPs or the share is even higher as compared to the inflation beating return that come from the asset prices. So these are three, four of the reasons why the financialization of our saving has improved. And because of the financialization of savings, what is happening in our economy is we are now entering into a particular territory where for the domestic funds, for the funds, companies do not have to depend on the outside market, but they can get fund through proper medium, proper institutional frameworks in our country itself. Suppose say any company which is listed on the stock market wants fund through some sort of right offers or follow on public offers. So whenever countries people who are having their savings in the form of financialization or formal financialization, then they will be trying to buy the shares or the follow on public offer or rights issue of that particular company. So rather that company actually have raised this particular money from outside or large investors, now it is getting the funds from retail investors also at the comfort of sitting in the domestic country boundaries. So countries independence or reliability among that also improves. So financialization of savings also increase the capability of the country's corporate sector. So that is one of the reasons. Another reason why actually India is in a mini Goldilocks moment is India's capital markets are witnessing vibrant participation from domestic retail savers. Demat accounts has surged to close to 15.1 crore in March 2019 from 3.6 crore in March 2019. So in 2024, the Demat account number is close to 15.1 crore, while it was in March 2019, the number was 3.6 crore. Domestic equity inflows has also been close to $92.7 billion. So you can directly be asked a question in the mains examination like that, India's retail sector participation in India's capital market is on an increase. What do you understand by this? So you can always write that there are two type of institutional investors. Number one, all those which are large investors. So group houses, those are managed by very professional networks. And then there are retail, domestic retail participants. Retail participants are those which have higher volume but lesser, ticket items. Suppose say they will be buying 100 rupee share, but they will be 1 lakh investors. But when we talk about the large investors, they will be buying, suppose say 10 crore rupee shares, but there will be say only two people who will be managing it. So these are the differences between different investors. But whenever you have the domestic retail participation that is increasing, what happens is the pressure on the large institutional investors also decrease, and they can actually put their money into the larger ticket items. Suppose say an infrastructure company requires money for a larger gestation period, that can be fulfilled by the institutional investors, while the domestic retail investor can always talk about or can always invest into those economies which are dependent not on the big funds but on small ticket item funds. So that is also increasing our domestic market penetration. Third one, 2036 Olympic bid, is it too ambitious? So whenever we talk about the Olympic bid, Olympic is a platform which gives actually such a large gigantic scale for the players. You must also understand that whenever there are Olympics to be hosted, then you have to create a very big infrastructure. That infrastructure is in the form of villages, those are created for residential, the large playgrounds, and other roads and other bridges. So the infrastructure investment in these Olympic events is such a huge quantities. So the people who are having the in favor mindset of Olympics and people who oppose these kind of extravaganza events are both actually split into their opinions. So those who in favor of 20 hosting a particular Olympic event, they say that because of this the infrastructure creation happens. Second is country's image to the outside world. If the Olympic Games are successfully completed, then not only the tourist sector, but other hospitality and even the country's image goes for a makeover, and it becomes at a very good levels. Third is the amount of money due to sponsors and other money that is also generated because of the tourist and other demand side factors in our economy compensate the amount of investment that we have made for creating infrastructure. So that is also third reason why a country should always actually prepare to host big large events. Number four, whenever even the country's infrastructure of the sports or sporting culture in the country is not at a particular level, but that also can be lifted up. Suppose in our country we have cricket and hockey, or say kabaddi, or say few other games like badminton, but most of the events that happen in the Olympic is not a part of India's sporting culture. So those in favor of Olympics, etc., they say that when such a large sporting event is organized in our country, this kind of thing can be a game changing effect. All other sporting events will definitely attract crowd, definitely attract the talent, and even give a broader scope for parents to identify more career opportunities in other sporting facilities. So that is also one of the biggest favor that the analysts talk about hosting large ticket items in the sporting arena. But there are players who also say that, or there are those actually who always stand against hosting such these kind of events. What they say that definitely the infrastructure creation happens, but the infrastructure that is created actually does not create any kind of positive effect for the economy, because number one, when the games are over, there will be no use of that infrastructure. Just like in South Africa, it was seen in 2010. Even in RCWG, in Commonwealth Games time, whatever the infrastructure that we created in Delhi, it is not being used up to the efficient optimal levels. The games villages actually that we created, the chances were that either we will sell these to other parties or some other things or commercial can be made, but they were never turned into. So sometime actually challenging things like these buildings actually becoming ghost building also, that also increases. So those in not in favor of the sporting events say that this infrastructure that you create, maybe actually short-term benefits can accrue, but long-term benefits will not be there. Two, also they say that whatever budget that you make, suppose at $20 billion or $30 billion, to even create these kind of sporting infrastructure or to even host these particular games, always the budget actually goes up. They give the example of 2014 Sochi Olympic Games, in Winter Olympic Games in Russia, Sochi, where the budget actually inflated by $41 billion. And they say that of the country's image or the country's potential of India, we should rather actually spend this amount of money to further reduce the hunger in our country and further reduce the inequalities those are present in the health and education sector. They also say that India has a very limited interest in other sporting events. So, till the time you don't develop your own grassroots sporting talent and become a sporting powerhouse first, hosting these kind of big events can be without any kind of fruits. So there will not be any results, but only you will be just putting out the arrows in the sand only. There will not be any effect on your sporting culture. So you first actually build your grassroots talent of the sports and become a sporting powerhouse first. So these are the things actually that whether we are or any country should go and try to bid for a particular Olympic hosting, they should understand that whatever the pros and cons are, cost and benefit are, after that only such these kind of biddings can happen. Next is the strong link between high glycemic index diet and diabetes. It is the finding of an international study that suggests that consuming low glycemic index and low glycemic load diets might prevent the type of 2 diabetes. They also found a strong association between glycemic index and risk of type 2 diabetes among individuals. The association between glycemic index and glycemic load with type 2 diabetes incident has been termed as controversial. GI, that is glycemic index, ranks carbohydrate containing food such as blood glucose response post or after a meal. The higher the blood sugar reading, the higher will be the glycemic index. Glycemic index is both the quality and quantity of the carbohydrate in a specific food and is the product of the GI, that is glycemic index, and the amount of carbohydrates available in a serving. That's why those foods which are low in the glycemic index are fruits, grains, lentils, non-starchy vegetables, legumes, dairy products, and brown rice. While those that have high glycemic index food are white bread, potato, white polished rice, sweetened drinks, and sugar. Why this topic is necessary or important is because India is fast becoming a diabetic capital of the world. In GS3, you can be asked a questions that non-communicable diseases in India is on a rise. So we must understand that the cost of the non-communicable diseases across the globe is close to $6 trillion. And for our economy, it is also a very, very large scale. The threat to our economic sustainability is also higher when the non-communicable diseases have started claiming the lives of people in more than 50% ratio. So people, those are dying because of the communicable or non-communicable diseases. The shift in ratio is towards the non-communicable disease now. So globally, close to $6 trillion is lost. Productive hours of the people are lost. Those productive hours actually which could have been utilized to improve the income levels or to provide more services and manufacturing product to the economy are going west to the unproductive tasks and other taking rest from the or taking break from the work. So India has to be saved from these kind of things. So a proper diet can be one of the major reason or intervention in which people are made more aware. Some regulations are brought in where people always get to know that this much diet or this much calorie that or this much kind of threat is from these kind of foods. So this kind of study can be a major help to meet our health goals. This was today's topics. If you feel that we were able to supply good quality content, for more such videos, you can like the button and subscribe the channel. Thank you.